Welcome to No One Tells You This. If you've ever walked inside a job and felt that gap between what an organization says and what it actually does, this episode is for you. Today's guest has spent 30 years working inside that gap, helping some of the world's most recognizable companies understand something that sounds so obvious, but turns out to be incredibly hard. That customer experience is not a department, it is a business decision. And most organizations and most early careers never fully recover from getting that wrong. Sonia Etxebarria, welcome.
Hello, nice to be
Good to
here.
have you. Sonia is the founder and CEO of Akuyari, a Madrid based strategy and design firm built on the conviction that businesses grow best when they stop optimizing for themselves and start designing for people they serve. She has over 30 years of international experience as a board advisor, strategic designer, and a mentor. With work spanning across Toyota, Dexcom, startups from Uganda to Italy. She is the architect of Engage 360 framework, which aligns business strategy with human-centered design, the co-author of Profitable Customer Experience, the leading reference manual on CX. She is here today because this audience needs to hear what it actually takes about figuring out why so many organizations get it wrong and what it takes to get right. Sonia, let's start there.
Sure.
Before we get into anything else, I want the people listening to understand how you got here to your career and your background to get you into the position that you're in today.
Wow, that could be a long story or could be also very short. But from my times when I was studying business administration, I moved into UK because I wanted to travel the world. And I just happened to stay there working for a telecoms company in a call center. It was hard for me the beginning because I had to also learn the language very well. And the company where I was working for, they had customers from all over the world, mainly Asia. So all the accents were like super struggling for me. But I made really good friends. I still have them though, and that's from 30 years ago. And then I stayed in UK for a few years working in different companies. It was a really good time there. And then I moved back to Spain and I kept working in telecoms. Then I moved into logistics, always in customer facing roles, because that's what I like and that's what I enjoy for sure. And then at some point I created my own company because, I was running a design studio, Italian, Swiss, Italian design studio in Spain. But then the COVID came and they had to close everything down. So during that time I decided it was a good moment to start thinking about what I would really wanted to do for myself and on my own terms and my own way, and that's how Akuyari was born, and it's been now 6 years. So
Amazing. It's amazing how so many, I mean, COVID was a terrible time,
yeah,
obviously,
it was.
but there was a lot of changes in terms of how we decide ourselves professionally, what we really want to do, and it gave us some freedom to decide that for a little bit. So it sounds like you did that.
I'm quite optimistic by nature, so I usually see opportunities instead of obstacles. So when the COVID
Yeah.
came and said, well, we're home. All right, so what can we do? So I started building a website, a concept, what I
Yeah.
wanted to do, how, and it just worked out. So,
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's amazing how things work out when you believe in yourself, for sure.
totally.
And I also love that your accent is beautiful, and I love that you have obviously international experience, really invested in cultures and whatnot. What has that really taught you about your decision and path around customer experience and that cultural aspect behind it?
Well, like I said, I've always been in customer facing roles, and I'm fascinated about the way we people behave. And, I guess it's natural for me to, relate to people and to engage with people. So I said,
Hmm.
well, I'm just going to use my natural skills to make a living out of it. And the thing is, I've always seen the people behave in a way that we need to understand. And so at the beginning, like many years ago, it was called quality of service. That's what we had to deliver. But then evolved into something else, which was customer experience. And this is quite new, by the way. In 2014, we created an association, which is now the biggest association for Spanish speaking countries in CX. And at the beginning, it was just five friends, we said, but what is this customer experience about? That's
Yeah.
when people started talking about it. So we decided to create a framework to start becoming like ambassadors of it because we really believed in it. Sorry, I got a bit of a cold. So that's when we created this association called DEC,
Mm.
and now we are over 300 corporate members and also individual professionals, independent. And so that's when we started talking about customer experience. Nobody really knew what it was about, but then it became a real field of knowledge, a proper
Yeah.
subject. And that's when, but it's been developing and evolving a lot along these years. So it's
That's
nothing to do
amazing.
with how it started.
That's amazing because I feel like customer experience now is so central to everything that businesses are focused on.
Yeah.
And people certainly don't get it right for sure, but there is this knowledge that we have to be focused on the customer in order to execute on whatever we do. I really love the organization that you've been working at. You said it was called DEC. How cool. So, do you all, are they leaders that serve all different types of
Oh,
companies
yeah.
or okay.
Yeah, we are a lot of different type of customers, members, and we all serve different industries. So we are obviously some CX providers, and
Hmm.
some others are from all sorts, automotive, services, everything really, even industrial companies from a
Yeah.
B2B perspective. So, but yeah, like you said, it's something that everybody should be focusing on, but
Mhm.
not really. I mean, you see many companies that don't really know what customer experience is about still.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's interesting and I'd love to learn more about your framework and everything, but what I've really been focusing on for myself and my marketing journey and even in my sales journey has been finding out what's your ICP, right? What is that ideal customer that you're focused on serving? And I think that's a really essential part to how you build out your CX model for your business.
totally. And the thing is that some companies do it really well, like
Mhm.
listening to the customers, understanding how they think, how they behave, how they make decisions. But some others decide that they know enough about their own
Yeah.
customers, so they build their own archetypes or personas based on their knowledge without really talking to customers because it's hard to listen to customers saying, I don't like you, or I
Yep.
don't like this about you. And you're like, what do you mean? We do it really well. It's like, yeah, man,
Mhm.
forget about your ego and listen to what they're saying, and
Yeah.
change those little things that they don't like, which is what we call pain points, or friction
Mhm.
points. But
Yeah.
some people don't like that, or even they don't have time to do it, or they don't find the time to do it because they don't think it's that important or strategic. And also some others believe that putting some budget into it is not that interesting. So there are different reasons why they don't do it, but it's me is absolutely key. And when a customer comes to us and says that they want to do a CX project and they want to improve the customer's loyalty, which is at the end what you get, and they say, oh, but don't worry about the customer research because we've already done it. We already know what they want. That's
Yeah.
not my type of customer, for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
No, definitely. It's so funny because a couple of months ago, I did a beta for my program, the Real Work Ready program. And I got a lot of slack from people of saying that you should just jump into it and, run fast and fail fast. I think that there's value in that. But the amount of data that I got in terms of just providing it to them, getting a feedback on what their experience was like,
Mm-hmm.
actually helped me craft what I have today. And it's to your point, if you're not listening actually to what they want, what they need, their feedback, their point of view, their ethos, everything that makes up their decision making and how they feel and engage with you as a company, you end up reworking your business model
Yeah,
and
totally.
costing you a lot more time and money.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are basically two ways of doing this. For example, if you're thinking about launching a new product or new service, you can do it both two ways. One is I work on hypothesis. I build an MVP and then I test it in the market and see what happens. Then again, you have to listen. Or
Yeah.
you listen first, you come up with insights and, wishes and desires, and then you build the MVP and test it, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously the chance of success in this case is a lot higher. But you can
Yeah.
do it both ways. I mean, depending on what type of service it is, what requires to build that MVP. So, yeah, I mean, it's not exclusive. You can do it both ways, but both require listening at some point.
Yeah. Listening and testing. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. So, we had spoken before this. Obviously, we got introduced, and you're so incredible. I love your background. I love your journey. And one thing you had mentioned to me that most companies do not have a CX problem; they have a decision problem.
Totally.
So, tell me about what that means to you. What does that mean in practice?
Yeah, I mean, you see, like I said, this is quite a new subject. It's been around for about 10 years, and
Hmm.
companies understood the value of it. So they started thinking about how can we get this into the organization. So at the beginning, it was obviously like a figure, like C-level figure in the organization, like doing all this work, like really assessing the situation, what it was supposed to, or how it was at the time in the company, using the tools that were available for everybody,
Yeah.
which is good. It's all based on design thinking that has been around for a lot longer than CX. So that methodology helps you a lot understand. But there were not many professionals, CX professionals. And like I said, there were like just one figure within the organization. So this
Mm.
is totally cross organizational. I mean, it touches every single point of your company because customers touch every single point, whether you say it or not, whether it's behind the scenes or at the front. So in some companies they stay there, it remained as just one figure in the shade. They it's like
Mm.
trying to tell their colleagues or their peers how to change things, which is complicated sometimes, right? So that's why it's become a decision making process because it's all based on initiatives. There's CX initiatives. And CX is not an initiative. CX is a whole system, it's a whole culture. I mean, it's got to go from the very top to the very bottom, across all the different areas. So
Mhm.
if you put just a peer to tell another peer what to do, that is complicated. That doesn't really
Yeah.
work because every area cares about what they are told to care about. So, based on your KPIs, based on your bonuses, based on what you're rewarded for, that is what you look at. So, if there is no any customer, I'm not going to say CX, if there is no customer focused KPI on your bonus, then obviously you're not going to go for it, right?
Right.
That's what happens with the silos and everything. So the
Mhm.
way companies decide on how to work on the CX is more based on this type of structure. It's not a
Mhm.
system where everyone understands, what you want to deliver to your customers, what values you live on, and therefore how those values are actually delivered in every single touch point. Then people won't be working together towards something. And that this new way of working that I'm saying is more a system. You need a systematic around you.
Mhm.
So everybody knows what is valued and what is not. And that requires a lot of things, hierarchies, internal processes, decision processes, culture in general, and obviously rewards, KPIs, all of it. So that's why it's a whole system.
Right. Do you find this impossible to do in large organizations that haven't started?
No, it's not
Because there's
impossible.
no.
Not at all. Because if you use, like I said, thank God we have, different methodologies that help us with this.
Right.
One is design thinking, another one is agile, which
Mm.
kind of breaks a bit, the stitches within the
Right.
companies, because some of them are not used to work this way and they love control. They feel more confident about controlling the situation, controlling their people, controlling
Yeah.
processes. But with these other methodologies, it's a lot more poof, who knows what's going to
Right.
happen. It's about more trial and error. So, people feel a lot more free to say, to try, to decide. And this kind of goes against the control situation. So some organizations don't like it. Some people within the organizations don't like it. So but
Yeah.
once you start working that way and you create multidisciplinary teams and you get people from different areas working together, they understand each other. They understand where they come from. They understand the limitations, the boundaries,
Hmm.
So it's a lot easier to create from that. Even people who have been working together in the same company for years, they've never seen each other, and you create these teams, and all of a sudden they start working together, and they're like, wow, where were
Yeah.
you before? And they become really good mates. So, but it's all about understanding your colleagues, it's about understanding the whole situation, creating together, and also getting involved in the implementation you know because
Hmm.
if it's always the managers or heads or whatever executives getting involved in the implementation, then the rest of the people think, oh, whatever, here they are coming with a brilliant idea that I'm not
Right.
going to be able to perform because they got no clue how my job goes. So, first you're listening to the people. They tell you, and they can explain how the job works, what they see, because they have so much information. We talk about voice of the customer, but voice of the employee is so valuable. So, they tell you, they open up. And once you have all this information and they start co-creating around it, the focus of all of them is just one. So for a start, you get everybody, like we always say, rowing the same direction, and also co-creating, getting implicated, getting involved in the implementation, because you can designate a person as an owner of initiative and not being a manager at all. Some people, whether they're managers or not, have other skills that they would like to develop, and also some of people like to come out of the comfort zone and do different things, and kind of give a bit of a spark to the daily life. So yeah, use those skills, use that motivation,
Hmm.
to bring people on board and make them owners and say, yeah, now you're the owner of this initiative. But that changes, and that requires a lot of specific personalities, or at least ways of working and understanding, because you could have a manager in that group, but he cannot behave as a manager because the owner
Yeah.
of the initiative is someone else. So
Yeah.
you have
That's hard for some
it is
people.
hard for some people, but once they get into it, once they get into this co-creation together, this testing, like trial and error culture, then they love it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, but at the beginning, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it is. It's every especially large company that I worked with, they go through some point of they said, okay, we need to now refocus on the customer, and there'll be things like design thinking workshops, which I
Mm.
understand is a tool within this whole concept, right? But they are so against it at the beginning, in my experience,
Yeah.
because it takes them away from their daily activities, right? And after they come out, they are completely re-energized, focused, and that experience is just completely changes the culture of whether it's a team or an organization. So I think it's so powerful that when executives take the time to
Hmm.
make space for that in their business.
Oh, totally. And if in big organizations as well, you need the sponsorship. You need the top management to be, sponsoring this new way of thinking, this new way of working, giving employees the space. Because sometimes what happens is you have your normal, business, your daily job, and on top of that, you're going to become an owner of a new initiative, which could mean a process change, a new service as technology changes, whatever. So people are like, excuse me, on top of this
Yeah.
or that? No. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean is a culture from top to bottom, because top needs to understand that that is important, that is key to transform a little bit, to change a little bit, to make an organization sustainable in time and profitable. So, if you want to get all that, have an organization ready to adapt to whatever comes, because the environment that we have is the one we have, so it changes every single day. You wake up with the news and you're like, oh, okay, what's happening today? So if
Yeah.
you want to have your organization ready to adapt to what's coming, you need to have this type of culture, where people feel free to talk, free to act, and they know in what direction they need to act. So it's at the end, in the long term, mid term, is totally profitable. And I see, well, feeling is that they end up seeing it, after they've done it for a bit. But at the beginning, this uncertainty of what's going to happen, how this is going to work, what type of initiatives are going to come out. It's like, I don't know, but don't worry about it. Your system is there holding you. So,
Yeah.
it's not going to be chaos all of a sudden, but it's true that some companies really struggle going through the process, especially at the beginning, in the design thinking, when you are like opening, it was like, oh my God, so much, we got so much here. It's like, don't worry, now we're going to close, we're going to prioritize, so you keep following the process and it works. Because we've seen
Right.
it in
Right.
many companies, but yeah, there is some kind of fear at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that that fear is absolutely true, especially again when you work for these large companies where just it's hard to see beyond the numbers that you need to get to each quarter.
Mm.
And it's nice that you can come in and have people think differently about that. But I think a big part of what you do is also around how do you take that translation of strategy and help to influence human behavior with that as
Totally.
well. What are some of the tools that you use to help to really influence behavior throughout the clients that you're working with to help them really embrace this change of being more customer focused?
Well, the tools that we use are basically, like I said, design thinking and agile tools.
Mm,
Agile structure and agile way of working, like, testing, having a proper organization with coaches, with a committee, with owners, squads, blah. But before we get to that, we use design thinking. And the good thing about the design thinking is there is fun. It's real
yeah.
fun. So people get involved. And how we do it is we start with a small project and some people within the organization. Usually those ones who are more motivated, or those ones who are right now very demotivated and they need some motivation in their lives. And managers usually know that. So it's like, okay, now I'm gonna take you out of your daily work. I'm gonna spare you for a bit, and you're gonna get involved into this strategic project. And people usually like that, right? So they get into it and they start playing and working in workshops and thinking and doing and playing with carton and doing prototypes and stuff, and post-its. For some reason, post-its are super fun, right? So you start doing this, and those people become ambassadors internally for the next level, let's say, of this project, where other people will get involved. So you start small, same way that we start with their customers, testing new products, for example, or services, we do it with our customers. So it starts with a small initiative, a small part of the customer journey, something that is really now not working for you. And let's get a few people together, let's start the process. And these ones will be our voice internally for all the people that will want to get involved. And it works.
I mean, that's a great process. It's your own prototype within the
Yes.
organization, prove out that value, and that's how you expand and have what you say
Mm.
ambassadors throughout the business. So I think that's an excellent model. What was my question? I just had a good question. JP, I have my question. so you're listening. I'll give you a second. I need water too. So, what organizations do you think are ripe for CX services to have a CX leader group come in for support?
What organization should have a CS structure?
In
Oh,
terms of like, where do you see the help needed at this point? Like, who
oh,
out there is in need of really refocusing around CX in their business?
well, as a user, you see, obviously, you look at it through your professional eyes, and it's like, oh my God, this, I know what it is like, and they should
Yeah.
change this and that, which sometimes is a curse. But I believe that companies should be working on the customer journey as a process that every day changes and moves. So someone should be in charge internally of that customer journey with full authority, to talk to all the rest of the organization and say, hey guys, we're having an issue here. We need to get together and work on it. Um, but if they don't do that, they're definitely missing it. And the problem is that big organizations, by the time they decide the budget, the people, the admin, all the admin bureaucracy they need to go through. By the time they start working on a journey, if they need external hands because they don't have enough people to do it themselves, then it's so long that then by the time they start, it's like this is already old. It's
Mm-hmm.
all news. So it should be something quicker. And once you start, if there is no other way that you need to do it that way, then once you start, just make sure that someone internally keeps updating it and updating it. And as soon as you fix something, change the journey because that's been fixed. And then keep listening, gather all your employee and customer voice and make sure you add it to your information, to your data, and that you keep upgrading and updating that journey. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that if they just do that, that would be pretty much enough, really.
Yeah.
Then the
Yeah.
problem is hands, it's usually hands. I need people, I need headcounts. So that's why they usually call companies like mine because they're like, oh, guys, do you help us? And also, another reason why they usually call other companies is because it's difficult internally. Like I said before, when you have to tell your peers what to do or what's not working in their
Yes.
area, that is not nice. Creates a lot of internal friction. So if it's someone from the outside saying, guys, I got you all together here, and this is what the situation looks like, and this affects all of you, doesn't mean you're guilty, it's your fault. No, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a question that needs to be fixed, right? And things change so quickly. Now with the AI, it's amazing how things change. So it's not your fault, it's just that you need to be up to speed to what's happening in the market, to how your customers are changing. So,
Yeah.
if someone from the outside that comes and says, look, this is what we bring in from the customers, so no questions here, and no biases here, right? And because we're not guilty of belonging or being on any side, and then you start working on the journey on that data, you involved everybody, and that kind of eases things, because
You're
it's
so
not
right about that.
someone external, and you're paying for this, so it's a
Hmm.
total different perspective.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I remember at one of the companies that I worked in, they had a lot of consultants come in for different sort of projects and lead certain efforts. And a lot of times these companies do that interview process throughout the organization to get a sense of the points of view of all the leaders there. And for me, it was always like a therapy session because I was hoping that if I really shared my pain points, that someone could advocate for me because internally it's so hard to sometimes advocate for yourself, for your department, because it's can get political, it can get complicated. You don't want to tell that work colleague that is has a great title that you need more from them. And
Yeah.
I love having an outside resource, especially for something that's this business critical and probably like changes a lot of operational behavior around the business.
Totally. Especially what you said, about employees talking freely. And leaders also struggle, through politics and bureaucracy, and what is meant to be right instead of what is right. So we all obviously have different ways of thinking, different ideas. So sometimes it's complicated, and in these type of interviews that we do on a one-to-one basis, people, like you said, use us as therapy. And they're like, yeah, because you know what's happening. And some people are more constructive, some others are more destructive. So the constructive ones also give you ideas, because I've thought about this and I know how we can fix it. And, I would do this and that. So we bring all that data totally anonymous, and it's like, okay, nobody. I remember
Yeah.
a company where the CEO asked, who said that? And so we're not going to tell
Really?
you. And he goes, well, I'm paying you. Your data is my data. You got to tell me. I said, no, not at all. Because one of the key points of these interviews is that they're anonymous.
Right.
So, no way. I mean, just get the info. Why do you care about who said this? That's what I was saying at the beginning, that some people don't like listening to what people say. I was like, no, that's not true. That's not the way it is. That's because they don't know. And so, well, up to you to listen, really. So,
Right. Yeah. I can completely see that happening because it's change is a lot more complicated than just the initiative itself. It's more the people and history around it that makes it challenging. So, you at the beginning had mentioned your career of where you got to today. Now you own your own firm that's just focused on this, operating internationally as well, which is incredible. And you get to work between different cultures and different kinds of businesses. So tell me, what sort of qualities do you look for when you're looking to build out your team in the CX space?
okay. Well, maybe I'm not the proper role model for that, but I like people who have their own opinion, people who challenge you, also creative, committed. But I'm not looking for robots. I'm not looking for people who follow you just because. And in fact, the structure that we have within my company in Akuyari is based on that. It's based on personal commitment. It's based on being able to give your opinion anytime you want. It's about choices. So the way we are structured is not in a hierarchical way. It's more about roles. So we have different roles within the organization, and also we play different roles in the projects. Depending on where the chemistry lays or the skills that we all have, depending on the customer we're working for. So it's not about who is the boss. It's about who knows how to do what, who fits better, and that way, I believe for that, I believe that you need people with strong personalities, knowledge, commitment. So challenging, I like that. I really like that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your business itself. Like, what's your culture like? What sort of customer experience are you trying to create for the clients that you serve?
Well, I mean, our objective is always to make people's lives easier in any way we work, in any project that we work. So whether it's for our customers or for the customers of our customers, then we always try to design a way of working that is simple, easy, meaningful, and inclusive. Because
Mm-hmm.
for us, it's important to also try design something, from our little perspective, from our little influence. Then it's important. Hang on a second. The dogs and pets in the house.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I was saying.
You were just saying from our perspective.
Okay. Yeah, it's from our little perspective and influence that we might have. We're very tiny, but we believe that by designing things that make people's lives easier, that are really meaningful, that takes the stress out of the people, that you're not selling or doing something that doesn't add any value to the people, then we are kind of expanding that and creating a more sustainable, less stressed society. And that is what I believe we need, because I see the new generations, and to me, it's really bad that they're already taking so many pills, like anxiety pills. It's grown like 800% in the last few years. It's like, excuse me, they're 20 something. How can you be anxious already? We're doing something wrong. So for us, it's important to leave a legacy, for the
Hmm.
next generations, for whatever we can do for the planet. So that starts with individuals. If we are capable of designing a service that is exactly what you need, the way you need it, nothing more, nothing less, which is super complicated to do, because designing something like this requires a lot more work than designing anything, right? So, or putting more functionalities, it's like, yeah, yeah, go straight to the point. For that, you need to understand what straight to the point means for the people who are going to use your service. Then we are helping, in a way, people feel more relaxed, and
Hmm.
therefore people around those people will also be more relaxed. And so that is our mean, that's what we try to build.
Yeah, I love that message. And I like your message too on simplicity. It reminds me of a story when I was young. My old school Italian uncle, he was in his 80s, went to the store to go buy a washing machine with my mom. And this was, a little while back now. But I remember she was trying to decide which washing machine to get. So there was one with all of the new buttons on it and electronics, and then there was one that just had two or three buttons on it. And I remember my uncle had said, always pick the simplest one because you can count on that experience. He said it in like very New York slang terms, but that was really the result of it. It's like when you try to sometimes overdo a process, overcomplicate something, there's so many opportunities for also something to go wrong and
Yeah.
and whatnot. So that's
Mm.
a really great perspective. So, before we close out, and you've been so lovely to have on, we end every show the same exact way, where I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to ask you to fill in the last part of it. So, the thing that nobody told me but changed everything for me once I figured it out was blank.
The way the world really works. Maybe when I was young, I was, I don't know, a little more like a dreamer. And my idea was always to be just, to bring justice in the world, fairness in the world. And then when I started working and getting older, I realized that the world works the way it works. And the best way for you to navigate it and to be able to fulfill my dream in this case, which was, like I said, have a more fair world, is by understanding the system and understanding the way it works and not fighting it. Because slowly, by understanding, you find the gaps, you find the rules, and then you understand how to bend the rules, so how to go around them, and get where you want to get. So, yeah, understanding the system, seeing it very well.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people follow up with you if they have any inquiries around customer experience or services or just to speak with you?
Oh, sure. First of all, thank you for having me, not the other way
Of course.
around. You're lovely. And you're doing a really good job with this podcast. Yeah, if they want to find me, they can find me on LinkedIn, Sonia Etxebarria with
There you go.
TH. And, or they can find us also on our website, Akuyari with a K and a Y, and .com. But we are about to release our new website this month. So wait and see. It's gonna be lovely.
Amazing. I cannot wait to see it and see what your own customer experience journey looks like from the website version of it. So, Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure as always, and I hope to see you in Madrid sometime soon.
Oh yeah, hope so. Thank you for
And we're not
having
too
me.
far. We could just hop over.
Exactly. It's not that far at all. The closer the worse we become,
Exactly. Well,
hopefully.
thank you again, Sonia. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, and all the best with this.